Bye bye marketeer, welcome Human Activator. I like this title of the presentation. Humanism in the digital world, more on that with Sarah Steenhaut.
Welcome and hi. I'm Sarah and I have a passion for marketing. But I believe I'm not the only one here with a fascination for marketing here at this BAM Marketing Congress. In this session, I would like to share with you my vision on marketing, my vision on the future of marketing. I engage with marketing in a hybrid manner. In one of my roles, I work together with C-level executives and we look for strategic ways to redefine organization, brands, businesses, and so on. And this always from a marketing perspective. We look at businesses and we look for ways to redefine them and to develop strategic marketing plans that make these businesses ready for the future. And this I combine with a role at Ghent University, an organization that for a long time did not quite excel at digital. 4 years ago, I launched the master course, Digital Marketing Strategies. And this with the aim of bringing together, or more closely together, the academic world and the business world. Because these master students in applied economic sciences, they need to be immersed into a real business context where inspiration for digital, for tech, and also initiative taking is really crucial. And this was achieved at the Meetdistrict here in Ghent in the Gilamco Arena. It's a meeting space where high-tech entrepreneurs and also digital entrepreneurs meet. And today, also the master students, the digital natives of today, and in fact, the marketers of tomorrow. And for me personally, this hybrid engagement with marketing, it's very enriching because my academic practice strengthens, inspires, and complements my business practice, and vice versa. So this is very enriching. And from this perspective, I also take a look at the profession of a marketer. And from a distance, I have to conclude some things. I have to conclude that marketing is no longer taken seriously. Our profession is all too often seen as a box of tricks, a box that you can only be used to take advantage of the easily deceived. For the average person, marketing has become the biggest crook, skilled at misleading and tricking people into doing things they don't want. In fact, experts in emotional blackmail. Recently, I had a very friendly conversation with the widow of Professor Vermeer, a man who is known to have an answer to everything. And she shared with me her definition of our profession. And she said, marketing is the art of manipulating human weaknesses to make people buy things they do not need. And in fact, this gets to me. I know where this comes from, but it worries me. It worries me about the future of marketing. And clearly, I'm not the only one. Dominique Leroy, the former CEO of Proximus and today's CEO Europe of the Deutsche Telekom, made a similar appeal in a recent edition of The Tate. She said, it's true that the word marketer has gotten somewhat of a bad reputation because some businesses have made too many meaningless promises. We need to reinvent marketing. We need to bring marketing back to its roots, to its purposes, to its true purpose. And what else do I see when I look at our profession as a marketer from a distance? I see inside organizations that marketing directors are receiving too many new job titles, too many new titles, a little bit different, but in the end, what's in a name? I also see on executive boards that marketers have been pushed away. Now they are making room for data, tech, digital experts. And in fact, not unjustly so, because these fields of expertise have a practical focus and they seem to bring some solutions to today's challenges. So in fact, marketing has allowed itself to be pushed into a corner because it lacked a holistic vision for the medium term. Marketing and what marketing is really about is, in fact, gradually been forgotten along the way. And this brings me to the question, what is marketing really about? And to me, marketing means invoking and working with existing interpersonal relationships. I'm convinced that this basic definition of marketing is the approach to embrace the chaos that we are faced with every day today as a marketer, as a business leader. I'm convinced that this is the approach to get to grips with the chaos and to come to tactics and strategies that can help in embracing this chaos. Because we're faced with a lot of dilemmas, a lot of challenges, a lot of insecurities today. And we're trying to deal with this context of complexity, and we try to function within this context. So we can ask ourselves some questions. Do we see a polarizing society with many contrasts? Or do we see a fragmented society with manageable chaos? Does this age of complexity keep us on our toes and stimulate reorientation? Or does it paralyze us and makes us desperately hold on to what we know? Are we overwhelmed by the tons of tech opportunities that we see? Or do we carefully select those tech solutions that fit within a bigger picture? And do we mostly see potential competitors when we look at the landscape that we are operating in? Or do we actively look for potential partners whom we can collaborate with and who we can co-create with? So a lot of challenges, a lot of dilemmas, and I'm convinced that as a marketer, if we continue doing things as we're doing it, then it will not be okay. Then it will lead us to the error 404 that we all know. So this brings us back to my definition of marketing. It's related to interpersonal relationships. Because there is, in this world of chaos, in this world of complexity, there is one thing that binds everything together, and that's human beings. One of the fundamental qualities that we all have in common, whether we are old or young, whether we are male or female, it's our desire to build relationships, our desire to build meaningful relationships with our environment. And our environment consists of more than only people. Within this environment, we want to build relationships with products, brands, services, institutions, organizations, and so on. And once we succeed in understanding how these relationships between people and their environment develop, once we understand what satisfaction this brings us, we can respond to them. We can respond to this environment and the way that people look for relationships. But this requires a holistic vision on people. Let's have a look briefly at the chaos theory. This is a branch of mathematics that investigates the behavior of nonlinear dynamic systems. And here we have to distinguish chaos from the everyday word that we know. It has more a technical meaning. But in fact, the chaos theory investigates the circumstances in which deterministic chaos occurs. And with deterministic chaos, we mean the apparent disorder which is precisely determined and ordered according to an algorithm or calculation. So in fact, this is the perfect metaphor for the action area of marketing. Because at first glance, people's behavior looks as if it goes in every direction. And it seems deterministic ad hoc. But in the end, it's our desire for satisfaction that determines how we behave. And this is nicely illustrated in the video, the time-lapse video of the morning rush hour at the train station of Amsterdam. This is a new shared space with only limited signage. And we see a lot of people, pedestrians, cyclists, scooter drivers, and so on. But what is nice to see is the fact that indeed it's disordered chaos in the way that the pedestrians, the cyclists, the scooter drivers nicely dance around each other. So this is a very nice example that illustrates that human behavior is not arbitrary, it's intentional. And that's important to take along. It was already proposed by Alfred Adler back in the 19th century. People are driven by unconscious motives and needs, and their behavior is influenced by these unconscious needs and motives. And this is what really is the focus, the purpose of marketing, to take this into account. So, marketing is not a means of pushing people into buying things they don't actually want. It's unbelievably pretentious of a marketer to claim that he can create a need. What marketers can do is better understand people, better identify their needs, and better try to understand how these needs can change when circumstances change. And they can try to come up with answers that better click with these changed needs. Because people don't buy products, they buy better versions of themselves. I believe that every human being seeks to develop and cultivate meaningful relationships. Whether you are a consumer, a marketer, a business leader, people want to enter into a connection with the outside world. And of course, they all go about this in a different way. Everybody has his own lens on the outside world. And this lens is created or formed by our experiences, expectations, and needs. But it's this lens, it's this perspective that gives us an idea about how the world works and also gives us an idea of how we look at ourselves. Looking at our customers, we believe there are 4 human drivers that are decisive in the process that customers look for relationships. And the first question that we ask ourselves is, how is this customer, or what is this customer seeking in this specific situation or in this product? Is he or she looking for hope or control? Is she looking for expansion, or is she looking for security? And the second question is, how does this customer relate to this specific situation and the specific product? Is the focus more on the individual himself, herself, or is the focus more on the community, the group that he or she wants to belong to? To answer these questions, we need to look beyond what big data tells us. Having descriptive data is very useful, but we need to look beyond that, and we need to seek more insight into the human drivers of our customers. These deeper motives, the human drivers of our customers, are the starting point of the process towards our strategic choices, and also towards the human translation of these choices into our marketing approach. I've had the fortune of working with a wide range of marketers, strategists and creatives at Famous Grey, brand managers at Unilever, innovation managers at Chiquita, product managers at Philips, and they all recognize the relevance of human drivers. After all, you can find them in every marketing book. But what I saw was that these human drivers were always interpreted in an isolated fashion. So they were never integrated as a gestalt. Never were they seen as a whole that is bigger than the sum of its parts. And it's just as important to look at your employees than to look at your customers. It's not only important to understand the human drivers of your customers and why they choose you or your product to buy. It's as crucial to understand and to interpret your employees as human beings, to focus on the human engagement of your employees, to make sure that they engage, that they are stimulated into change and adaptation, into involvement, connection, and concern. It's really important to engage these people, your employees, who work day in, day out, to let your brand be your brand. You have to consider them human beings. All too often, we see two conversations going on at the same time. One in the market, one inside the company. And it's likewise essential that you build meaningful relationships with your partners within your ecosystem, that you focus on creating mutual value co-created for your common end customer. And while doing so, you also give something back to the planet and the society. After all, this is the collective of human beings. Together with Jan Kallebout, the founder of Motivational Diagnostics and also a worldwide thought leader in marketing, I've always focused on deeply understanding these human drivers, deeply understanding the relationships that manifest among human beings together with their environment. And once you understand these relationships, you can realize how you can respond to them with technological solutions, how you can enrich them with big data, and how you can use digital tools to build connection. That's why I'm also a fan of Jeroen Lemere and his team at In the Pocket, the digital product studio here in Ghent. Their starting point in the design process is human drivers, is the basic needs of the potential user. They design for future humans. They don't design future tech. They start from needs, going to solutions, to products. Once you understand the human drivers, you can activate people. Marketing is about being and remaining human. Marketing is about activating human relationships. This is what a marketer should do. This is what a human activator does. And this is why I argue for a broader human-oriented marketing approach, which is embodied by a human activator. Human activators analyze individual human drivers and social shifts in order to bring back people at the center of a business strategies. The key behind successful organizations is that they truly understand what motivates people and that they create effective practical solutions and respond to this. This makes even sense in a pandemic situation as we are experiencing right now. Let us imagine for a second that an act human marketing approach is applied in this pandemic situation, in this COVID pandemic. Why weren't our policymakers more effective, more successful in activating people to follow the measures? We missed our opportunity to transition from a passive society to a collaborative society with a very strong sense of individual responsibility. Firstly, an asynchronic approach would have been very useful. Not the same for everybody, but with differentiation, with distinction made between industries, age groups, communities, and so on. And secondly, why didn't we team up with experts in quarantining? I'm sure that, for example, at the cancer charity, Kom op tegen kanker, there are a lot of marketers that are willing to share their experience in situations like this. But unfortunately, we didn't. So let's have a look at how to act human. Fundamentally is the idea you don't have customers. You only serve people together with other people. You engage with people, for people, by people. Markets don't consist of demographic or behavioral descriptions of customers. Markets consist of people. And it's useful to think of the service logic here. The service logic deals with the provision of service instead of the transactions of products and goods. And the value of this service is determined by the end customer, who is also the co-creator. And as an organization, you can only offer propositions. You can't offer value. This proposition is co-created together with collaborators. Collaborators that you search for within the market, across the silos of teams, organizations, industries. And this is the way that service logic inspires brands, organizations, industries to engage in a reorientation and to move into a new business logic. My friend and colleague, Pieter de Kuipere, remember the architect of Isle of Techno, used service logic to redefine the events industry. Now, more than ever, this industry must reinvent itself. And in doing so, it's not about coming up with new ideas how to make an online version of a physical event. No, it's about act human. It's about truly understanding what people are searching for at these events, what participants of these events are looking for, understanding these human drivers, and then respond to it with new concepts that tap into these human drivers, and this by working together, by creating new concepts together. Another example is regenerative tourism, an idea that has recently been discussed in Newsweek. It evolves around the idea of giving something back to the places that you visit as a traveler. It's a type of travel that benefits the local inhabitants and the planet, and also being appealing to the traveler. Recently, Tourism Flanders has been appointed a pioneer in creating new forms of tourism. It was the New York Times that defined them as a pioneer. And their motto, the motto of Tourism Flanders is, we want to bring added value to 3 parties: the local residents and store owners, the travelers, and also the planet, so that we can combine and integrate sustainability as well. Because sustainability is economic when you find a balance between economic, social, and environmental needs. So you can combine sustainability and growth. And if you think that the service logic is only relevant for the big companies, then my dearest client, Valkenier in Aalst, is really a strong proof to the contrary. It's really admirable how this family business has been able to redefine themselves from a classic car dealer into the reference in local mobility solutions. They are servicing and guiding their customers every day throughout their life journey to move with a smile, and this together with local collaborators and partners. And this brings me also to another concept, the concept of customer journey, which in the meantime already became a buzzword. And all too often we see the focus on a detailed map of all the touch points throughout the customer journey, instead of truly focusing on how human relationships can be developed within this value journey of a human being. How can meaningful interactions and unmissable experience be created together throughout the value journey of a human being? Together with Brussels Airport, we at Calabot Collective developed this value journey of the traveler. And the challenge here was to see the traveler as a human being, as a real human being who goes on a trip, who goes on a journey, and this journey embarks as of the point of exploration of the destination on the way that people can do some transport. And in this journey, Brussels Airport can be a destination, a value-adding destination which can be created when we work together with all parties involved. We also have some other examples of customer journey managers being introduced, for example, at Proximus, or a consumer care manager introduced at Unila. These 2 examples put the consumer at the starting point, which is a great thing. But a human activator also pays attention to other stakeholders, for example, B2B customers, employees, political actors, and seeks to build also meaningful relationships with these stakeholders. So again, it comes down to human activation as a gestalt. Mapping out the journey is only a detail, a technical detail, a tool, if you will. But in the end, it's about activation of the human relationships. That is what marketing is about, and this is where we should focus on. And if we want to do so, we need to consider collaboration as a new competition. If we don't work together, we can't move forward with marketing. As long as you continue to take a piecemeal approach to marketing, you will be a technician, a good one with a lot of expertise, but you won't be a human activator. Data mining, AI, 3D printing, I all appreciate this tremendously. But in the end, they need to be more than just tools. They need to have an appropriate place within human activation. As a human activator, you should put people back at the center of your business strategies. You embody empathy. You are the connector between humans and the interconnected ecosystem. You are the catalyst of tech solutions with impact. And you are the instigator of coalitions in search for a mix of expertise that complement each other and that are coordinated according to the Act Human principles. And if you want to learn more about Act Human, you can read this in my book that will be available as of the beginning of January. In the meantime, I would like to leave you with an invitation, because we have a choice. We have a choice to go back to the Stone Age, when everything was done based on intuition, or we can become stuck in the fourth revolution by overly relying on technology, or if we can enter in a new age where everything is brought together at the level of human activation. So I invite you to join me in the age of human activation. Thank you.